Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 2nd, 2025 at approximately 8:13 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's calling to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies that I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, I do want to tip my hat to Storm. Now, the nice part there is Storm is our primary moderator. But he sits in the back most of the time, making sure tech runs. In case you hadn't noticed, if you were on a little earlier today, you will have noticed that we had tech problems. This said, okay, we got things back up and running. Storm is also the one that keeps the problem children out of the house, because this stream, I am aiming to make a safe zone for everybody. And yes, even those of you who have been considered bullies and narcissists, amongst other things, I know those are bad words. Nobody wants to be called one. I got over it. How about you? Even if you overstep lines, and the rules of the chat room are listed at the top, they're also scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So if you find yourself outside, odds are you overstep boundaries. Okay, but let's be clear. I asked my moderators directly to eliminate the problems before they become a problem. Okay, now, I've got to go by memory a little bit here, but Eternity Eternal, I hope she pops back in, was in with the gold, and Mike Jones came in with the silver. I'm just waiting for them to pop back in because we had to dump the stream. This said, Operation Shutdown, you are in with the bronze. So I hope things are going well with you. Now, Operation Shutdown is going. I am trying to use the power of prayer to make sure the stream works. It works good tonight. Thank you so much there, Operation. Really appreciate that. I also understand that LA Moon is also in the house. Okay, she is a primary moderator for inside the chat room. And again, she helps keep the conversation going and taking care of problem children, as in warning them, as in stay within the lines, people. Now, we are talking about the power of prayer and prayer meditation, however you want to put it. Positive thinking, anything that helps keep you focused on attaining the future and the world you would like to live in. Now, here's the thing. When we are talking about prayer, remember, I've mentioned this many times, all things are connected. Whether you call it prayer, positive thinking, positive thinking, positive manifestation, meditation, call it a jam sandwich. Okay, what word you use to describe it doesn't matter. But when we start looking at prayer, what you're doing is connecting the upper echelon, the upper energies with your physical body. And by pulling it through your body in a focused fashion, you can take that energy and bring it into the material world. Now, thinking about it works like a charm. Okay, when you start talking about it, you're now taking that energy of thought and giving it a vocal component. Okay, once you've got that going, understand, writing it down draws it right into the material world. Now it's time to get off your tail feathers and make it happen. Okay, there's a lot of things that are taking place that we really have to stay focused on if we're going to turn this world around. Now, I don't know if from your standpoint you'd like to. I know I'm not content with the way my life has been going. So I'm making modifications to it. Okay. One of the things that I did find is when you take your hands, okay, now most people when they pray put their hands palms towards each other. And here's why it works. You see, when you bring your hands within a quarter inch, maybe a half an inch of each other, you'll feel energy between them. When you pray, you're linking those together to keep that energy cycling through your own body, thereby giving it that much more physical impact. Okay, and it's that change that is going to make things happen in a positive fashion. But it's up to you to stay focused on it. Now, again, guys, if you've got questions or you desire clarification on something, absolutely put a question in the chat room, preferably all in caps so I can find the thing. Okay, in order for me to actually answer. Because I will give you an honest answer if I've got one. Well, I will have an honest answer. It just may not be the one you're looking for. So what I'm looking at now, okay, now that I've got my office desk back together, I can actually function. One of the things with prayer. Where are we? Operation Ghost Keith. Do the off-worlders practice prayer and or meditation? The short answer is yes. Virtually every sentient race I've ever run into has a belief in a higher power. Okay. Now, some of the names that you've heard, some of the names you may have heard, I'm not going through all of them. Okay. Because let's face it, we call, in English, we call our higher power one thing. Some people call it, either God, maybe you call it your higher power, source, any number of things. They've got the same array. Okay. And yes, they also have their own rituals for prayer or meditation. Okay. They've got some pretty extreme ideas on how to focus. And I see that LA Moon has arrived in the room. Okay. The only two we're missing at this point is I'm missing Eternity Eternal has not returned just yet from what I'm seeing. Okay. And Mike Jones. So this is just a call out to see if they show up again. Now, I do have some good news for you on a side note. We have now, as of today, broken 700 subscribers. Now, what that means is if we do this, we go 700. We are now reaching in excess of 28,000 people on just a rough gauge. Now, prayer itself, what it does is focuses your energy to make the things happen in your life that you would like and that you desire to see happen. This includes everything from improved health, improved living conditions, and there's Eternity. Thanks for checking back in, Eternity. You still have the goal, by the way. The fact we hadn't had to drop the setup is, well, welcome to technology. And as I told Storm, the problem likely was that last night at 2:00, I had a when I closed down last night, my computer rebooted. We are slowly inching our way up. And I'll tell you, when I first started this 3 years ago, I figured if I broke 3, I was doing good. So 700, I'm not complaining. Prayer itself, okay, what it does is it aligns the energy. Remember, the energy runs through every molecule in your existence, and everybody else's for that matter. Okay, because like I said, we are all connected. When you pray, you're drawing that attention into the physical world. Okay, you think about it, you talk about it, you draw it down. You're giving it vocal impact. Then when you write your prayers down, Okay, you're literally giving them a physical form. Now, there are some communities where they write their prayer down and then they light it on fire. The idea being to take that physical prayer and push it back into the upper realms where it can now begin a cyclic run. This said, that will amplify the ability. Okay, that will amplify the impact. You know, one of the things I did find is that the more focused you are, and I don't mean take all of your day's efforts and stay thinking about that thing, whatever it is. Okay. In my case, okay, I am concentrating really strongly on my health on all levels, but I'm quite happy to say I entered the end of October. I entered November with all bills paid and sitting in the black. Okay, which means I know I'll still drop into my overdraft, but it has been by solid, focused effort. Angels of Life, how you doing? Long time no see. Glad you could join us. Now, when we start looking at prayer, okay, and like I said, we could keep going back over it. We're going to call it prayer or meditation. Take your pick. When you focus your energy through those two venues, what you're doing is saying, I'm not buying into all the negative stuff that's going on out there. I'm going to concentrate on the positive ones. You know, this is just one of those things that we have to look at if we're going to make this world a better place. It cannot be left. Well, it can be if we leave things in the hands of the leaders or the spiritual guides. I kid you not, I was talking to somebody today, right? They are very caught up in the spiritual world. Okay, they go to their own church, their own temple. I'm not sure what they want to call it, but they made a very definitively derogatory comment regarding people living on the street. Now, I will tell you, from my standpoint, the people living on the street are simply people in a different venue, in a different life situation. This does not make them worse. Okay, but when you're thinking of praying, absolutely pray for whoever you will. I do encourage you to put your prayers in for the people that are on the street, that are essentially forced onto the street. Okay, the fact of the matter is, most of the ones on the street are not there by choice. I will, however, tell you, I've run into a few people living on the street that literally are there because that's where they personally desire to be. The way one chap put it, he turned around and he said, I live on the street because I like to, and I've got enough money, I don't need to worry about it, but I figure the government has enough money. They don't need mine. So this guy living on the street, and this is an extreme rarity, I saw his bank book. He showed it to me. Living on the street, he had a bank book, a bank balance in excess of $750,000. Okay. When we look at meditation or prayer, both are forms of sitting down, quieting your mind, and focusing on a positive outcome. At least this would be the theory. Okay. Now, with that in mind, the reason for prayer is because, well, many people consider prayer to be the accepted way of doing it. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty broad-minded where it comes to accept it. Okay, I take a look at it and go, I'm opening this door. Okay, and as long as what you're doing is focusing on following the three karmic laws, be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. As long as you're doing that, what you're going to find is your life will start to take on a better light. Now, yes, there's those of you that are going to sit there and you're going to go, but, but it hasn't worked. I've been praying for these changes. Let me ask you this. In the middle of your praying for changes, have you gotten up off your couch and changed anything in the way your life is going? Okay, because I don't know about you. The reality of it is, from my standpoint, I keep praying and hoping and wishing for my dishes to get done. So far I've had to wash them. It's kind of annoying, that I can't pray and have it happen. And so many people I talk to say, "Oh, just pray for it, and God will help you." Well, there is an old saying, God helps those that help themselves. Now, I made a slight addendum to that, okay, where I look at it going, God helps those that help themselves, but he's not talking about actual thieves. When we look at praying or at meditation, what we're looking at is taking the time out of your admittedly probably very busy day and slowing your brain down enough and slowing your activity down enough to just spend a few moments and go, my life is changing because I'm putting the effort into it. This is the thing we all have to start looking at. So, these are interesting little bills that I need to make sure I've got turned around. Yeah, I know, doing things that get me sidetracked on occasion. But this is one of the drawbacks of this idea of positive thinking. Now, you'll notice I am running this stream we call positive perceptions. The reason for it is because I refuse to stay focusing on everything that's bad in the world. Yes, there are wars going on, but there are a lot more marriages, a lot more graduations, a lot more celebrations than there are conflicts. Okay, the sad part is that the news doesn't tell you about the positive things. I'm still trying to figure out entirely why, though I suspect it's because it's easier to control people if you keep them scared to death. This is, and of course, that's my personal opinion on it. I'm not about to start pointing fingers at individual governments or corporations. I will tell you that it takes no functional effort to say good morning to somebody when you're walking by them. And it may be all that it takes to put that person's mood on the positive side, on the avoidance side, of punching their own ticket, where they all of a sudden go, hey, somebody noticed me that wasn't calling me a name. Okay. And this is the thing. Now, I pray virtually every night that this world is going to get a better man, is going to get it through their head that we can make this a better world. But it's going to take the effort of the greater majority of people. Okay? Because I will tell you, even in one-on-one relationships, no matter how much effort you put into it, it is only 50% of the required effort. Okay? Same thing applies to changing the way that the world around you is working. If your community is not as safe as you'd like it to be, it's time to start reaching out. Now, do understand, if you know you live next door to a drug dealer that is volatile, knocking on his front door is not necessarily wise. Okay, and Lord knows, I'm not the wisest person on the planet. I mean, let's face it, I live next door to a grow up. Okay, I lived next door to a grow up, and I knew where 2 out of 3 of the major drug dealers in my city were. Okay, did I have anything against them? Yes, it was what they were doing was illegal. Absolutely, it was. However, that said, as long as you're doing your part, they can be encouraged to turn around as well. The thing with prayer is what happens when only one person prays is not a whole lot. Okay. I mean, it does get hurt. Do not get me wrong. But when a community starts working together to make things happen, okay, to make their community safer or more congenial, when people start working on it, it becomes so much better. Okay, but it's like the old saying, many hands make light work. What that means, okay, what that literally means is if you get a lot of people helping to move something heavy, a lot of people will make that thing seem a little lighter. Here we are. Yeah. LA goes, God has a tendency to protect us in the sidelines. Had that happened twice this week. I got a kick out of it a month ago. I kid you not, a month ago I was dead. Okay. Again. And I got shown a whole pile of things, one of which is to let you people know whether you're going to a church, a coven, a clearing that you're happy with, maybe you're going to a temple, it doesn't matter. Join together with people that you can relate to and start focusing on making this world a better world for virtually everybody. Yes, there are those that will likely not be happy. Okay, true narcissists, look the definition up in the dictionary. Okay, a true narcissist, unless they are the center of attention, are not likely to be happy. But they can be educated. Okay, I'm a firm believer that all things are possible, although some things are a lot more unlikely. Okay, now where it comes to this stream, okay, like I said, I'm not putting a lot of weight into the numbers, okay, but I do watch them. And if if you're interested in helping, if you're interested in any of the books I've got in print, go to the link at the top of the page, buymeacoffee.com/innervoicej. You can find all of them. And for those of you that may have written me in the last month or so, understand. August, I got married. September, I died. October, I decided I got back into rehab. So I'm going to be going back through them. And if somebody's waiting for a response, that's why I haven't responded. Okay, so we're getting back on track with that. When we talk about meditation, I take at least 5 minutes a night and first thing in the morning just to focus on the way I desire my life to go, just for that day. Granted, the nighttime is usually, gee, I hope I don't end up dying tonight. We used to, when I was a child, we used to have a prayer to that effect. Now, the nice little part about it with what we're up to right now is things are changing for the better. You can see it around the world. It's just a little hard to spot on occasion. Okay, but when you bring community, when you bring prayer, meditation, and communication into line, what you end up with is the start of a change in society. But it is up to us, the individuals, not the elected officials, not the big leaders in any of the churches or temples, not any of the CEOs. It is literally up to us, the individuals. And remember, Every one of the aforementioned people happen to be individuals, which means they're not off the hook either. Okay, now you've heard the idea, if things get really stressful, take a moment out, take a deep breath, and count to 10. Well, here's the thing. That is rudimentary meditation. You slow your mind down, focus on one thing to avoid complications. Okay, and the reality of it is, when we take a look at the idea of prayer, we have to remember, or at least it would be wise to remember, that the idea of prayer is simple. Change the path you're on. But you're the one that's got to make the effort. Okay, and I will tell you, talking about it doesn't finish the job. Okay, it's only the starting point. Now, when we look at it, the reason prayer works is because if you take one person and they're praying about something, okay, that gives one amount of power. Now, let's take a second person. Now you doubled your amount of energy going towards that same thing. This is why, some people will sit in a circle to pray, okay, where they literally hold hands. And the reason for that is because it connects the energy and helps enhance the way that the things are coming to pass. And again, when you start making that happen, when you start recognizing that bolstered feeling that goes, yeah, I've now got a little bit of support around me, I can make this work. Once you get that message, you're much more inclined to get up and do something. There are so many good things happening in this world that that get totally overlooked. Mainstream media, and for that matter, spiritual propaganda, tend to get you focused on everything that's wrong. Okay, now I could list off all kinds of things that are wrong, but I'd like you to take a look and watch, even amongst the spiritual teachings and the political rhetoric. Okay, listen for that one note that says this is something that has potential to be good. Okay, you've got to, if you desire your health to improve, you got to start focusing on the positive things happening around you, not all the negative ones. So hopefully this is making sense. And yes, those of you that know me already know that I have a tendency, what the heck is that? That I have a tendency of repeating myself, but in all fairness, that's to repeat myself for me. What, pray tell, is that? Oh, that's what that is. Okay. Considering it's bothering me, I gotta show you. This is called a complete sidetrack. So I'm just gonna do this anyway. One of the nice things about being a live stream is I'm allowed to do this. This funny little tail here. This is what it is. I don't know if you can see that, but I hope so. Okay. The reality of it, this is from the Never Ending Story, and I forget his name in all fairness. But he sits up here. Just I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. So I had to go and take a look. But again, it boils down to this. Okay. When you have a dream, when you have a goal in mind, the more you focus on it, the better off you are. Oh, there we go. Storm pops up and goes, that's Falcor. Okay. Now, the reality of it is, I picked that up years ago for my now wife. Okay. And so he sits up there now. But I couldn't for the life of me figure out what I was looking at, which is why I went back there. But now, I've got a number of things around here. My parents bought me a stuffy when I was just a wee lad. And it's over there. I'll have to show you that later. His name is Freud. And it stands for reality of your dreams. Okay. Now, these are all forms of meditation. How many kids do you know that have a stuffy, that they take a stuffy or a favorite blanket that they take to bed with them? And maybe you're one of these people, maybe you're an adult doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is another form of focus to help you meditate on the positive things in life. Even if that's just a question of, please make all the pain go away. Okay, don't make all the pain go away the way I did. Dying is a bad way to make pain go away. Okay, but when we start looking at the world the way it is, the way that this world is working, meditation and prayer and any other form of thought process you'd like, works like a charm. Now, one of the things that I keep handy, right above my monitor, I have 4 words. I am worth it. I have those same 4 words on my fridge freezer and on my front door. Okay. And the reason for that, I love when my lighting does that. The reason for that is it helps keep me focused on that positive side of things. I love when my monitor shuts down like that. That always makes it fun. Here we go. LA is going, oh, I missed you. Philip Blair, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And I do believe I missed something here. Let's go back up here. We had Eternity Eternal came in with the gold. Mike came in with the bronze, with the silver. Then we had Operation in with the bronze. And then we scroll down a bit. This is what I was looking for. And we go and then Angels Are Life came in with honorable mention. Now, do understand, this does not mean anybody is less important or less valuable than anybody else. Okay. And Philip Blair is just letting us know my lucid dreaming practice has been backsliding. Apparently, prayer meditation is supposed to help. So I'll give it a try. Something just to be aware, Philip. The reason that and it's just personal, I recommend against lucid dreaming because of one thing. Lucid dreaming enables you to control your dreams. It does work. But the drawback is that the hidden messages that your dreams are supposed to bring you can't if you're controlling the dreams. Okay, but you can do what you will with that. And Ellie was just saying, both my kids and me. Yeah. Both her kids and she herself have a stuffy they take with them. Okay. And one thing I will tell you about stuffies is I do find even with adults, okay, if you can't figure out what to give an adult if you're planning on giving Christmas gifts and you can't figure out what to give an adult, give them a stuffy. Okay. It may be totally useless in most concepts, but I'm telling you they'll appreciate it in most cases. One of the things that I look at is this. When you're not content with the way your life is going, it is up to you to get off your tail feathers and make it change. Now understand, as I told one person, reaching out and asking for assistance is representative of you getting up and doing something about your life. Maybe you don't know how to change it. Maybe you don't know the next step to take. With this in mind, asking will give you a better shot at it than not asking. The one thing that I've always found is when you make the decision that your life is going to get better, that's when it starts. And prayer or meditation or sitting in a circle. Bear in mind, prayer can be done on your own, in a group setting, in a circle, sitting side by side. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can even sing your prayers. They have the same effect. Although in my case, if I were to sing my prayers and anybody were within earshot, it may scare them. So I don't go there. Okay, what we're looking at this point in time is how do we change the world? Okay, well, you start by changing your own world. And by doing that, things will shift gears quite nicely. Okay, now I will tell you this. I've got a whole shelf over here of stuffies. I don't tend to have them on my bed anymore. Something about the fact I happen to have a wife. Now, when we start looking at meditation, meditation really boils down to prayer without necessarily putting your hands together. Some people pray by literally kneeling down and touching the ground with their forehead. This is simply another method of doing it. It is, everybody develops their own everybody develops their own ritual or their own pattern of doing things. Oh, no, in all fairness, Philip, I very seldom sing. Okay, but literally most of what I sing isn't human. Okay, it comes from very old languages. But that said, I don't sing a lot anyway. See, here's where the problem was when I was growing up. Okay, virtually everybody around me told me I couldn't carry a tune and stopped singing. Eventually, I took it to heart and quit. Now, my wife has been trying to talk me into doing that and tried talking me into expanding back into that area. But it is another form of meditation. Because you got to remember, how many people do you know that walk around their house while they're working? Okay, you've heard the song "Whistle While You Work." Maybe not in many people's cases, but the idea is that by singing, you can bring your spirits up. It is another form of meditation. That is exactly what I mean. Philip. As a matter of fact, I have one analyzed. I'm still looking for it. But the language I had analyzed by a professional linguist, and it was very ancient languages. Okay, as soon as I can find it again, I will put it I will put it back onto paper. It just took a while to sort it out, and then I turned the copy over to somebody, and they vanished with it. But the important factor is this: whether you pray by talking, by thinking, by chanting, by singing, even if you decide to get up and dance while you're praying or while you're meditating. I've seen some circles where they literally will they'll stand up and they'll sing, and while they're doing that, they raise their hands into the air. I got no problem with it. Like I said, as long as you're focusing on the three karmic laws. Because remember, we all are individuals. We all have the capacity to change the world around us. Okay. That is very correct, Philip. Philip Blair is just saying blind folk usually have a good ear for music and such. They really do. And, I can quite honestly tell you that wholeheartedly because my wife happens to be 100% blind. Okay. Now, I block out on this one because she can't see me. Net result, I don't have to worry about that aspect. One of the biggest problems that I run into with people is when they go, "Oh, your method of prayer isn't good enough." I'll tell you, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in a God by any name, and you believe he or she created everything, then you got to realize, however you're praying, however you're celebrating life, is a good thing. Here we are. LA goes, I knew a kid in Sunday school that loved to sing in choir. He was pure joy. Nobody would take him out of the choir. When he hit the wrong note, the whole church would sing too, and the next time sing. Bleh. I read that really poorly. My apologies. This is why I don't dictate my own writing. Okay, but the fact is, I take a look at anybody willing to put the effort in. Whoa. Oh, there we go. Ellie goes, he was great, but he could sing a tune in a bucket. This is why I tell people I can carry a tune. Give me a bucket, I'll carry it. But when we look at meditation, especially in the form of just meditation or prayer, especially in a group setting, it does tend to help lift the spirits of everybody around, especially everybody that's participating. Where it comes to meditation via music, providing we are talking about music that is uplifting and not music that talks about killing people and turning over governments and ripping people off. Okay. Music with a good beat is a method of meditation. Oh, there we go. The reality of it is, as long as people are putting the effort in to making this a better world, we will end up in better shape. Okay. As the saying goes, bad things happen when good people choose to do nothing. Okay. And this is why, in spite of the fact that I personally do not go to church, okay, I have sent Lord knows how many people back to a church, back to a temple, back to a coven, because they do work. Okay. Now I've got my own reasons for not going. I know my ex-wife used to tell me she was afraid I'd call the pastor on his sermon. At that point in my life, she may well have been right. And that is absolutely fantastic there, LA. LA is going, the church supported him, supported his efforts, and worked with him. Oh, Philip, the short answer, I was a recluse. We didn't have anybody show up. Okay. I don't leave my house on Halloween to speak of. Of course, I don't leave my house to speak of. I did pick up chocolate just in case we got a knock on the door. But I did not get dressed up at all. Well, aside from standard street clothes. The reality of it is, I used to when I was younger. But as I got older, I became more and more reclusive. I still encourage people. And the fact that this is why I say I encourage people to do things that I don't necessarily do. Like I will encourage people to get dressed up and go out and celebrate Halloween. Even if all it is get dressed up and walk out there, it will add to the atmosphere for the people that actually celebrate. Okay, again, and yes, I have considered it. From my standpoint, it really boils down to this. I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Okay, I got very cynical very early in life, still working on turning that around. But the power of meditation, the power of prayer, is that it can literally change the face of the world. Okay, it can alter the direction that your life is heading and the direction the lives of other people are heading. But it requires effort. Okay, and it requires being non-judgmental. In other words, you see somebody dressed up, certainly make a polite comment, encourage them to be themselves, to enjoy what they're experiencing. Well, there we are. Thank you so much there for the reminder there, LA. Now, I've just been told we're down to 5 minutes. So I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Sorry for all the technological problems, but welcome to my world. Now, where am I here? I need to pull up this. Tomorrow, we are going to be we're dealing with finances tomorrow. We'll be dealing with growing your bank account with your money. And then on Tuesday, we're going to discuss putting your past to rest in the way of self-help. Okay, so with that in mind, thanks so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate the support. And, I do hope to see you all tomorrow. That said, until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.